This video is going to teach you how to add and subtract fractions. So first we're going to look at some more basic fractions. And so when you're adding or subtracting a fraction, the important thing to remember is that your denominator is going to stay the same. So you're adding or subtracting the numerators. So in this problem we have 4/8 plus 3/8. So we need to add 4 plus 3, which equals 7, and our denominator stays the same. This one is a subtraction one. Again, your denominator is going to stay the same. So we're going to subtract 7 minus 3, which equals 4, and our denominator stays the same. So it's really pretty simple as long as you remember to keep your denominator the same. Where it starts to get more challenging is when we are adding mixed numbers. So there's two methods that you can use, and you can choose whichever works best for you whenever you're adding or subtracting a mixed number. So I'm going to show you two examples for both ways. So this first example is 1 1/4 plus 2 2/4. So the method that we're going to do first is we're going to start by adding the fractional parts. That's our part that is our fraction. So we're going to add 1/4 plus 2/4. So what we just learned is that we're going to add our numerators. So 1 plus 2 is 3, and our denominator stays the same. The next step is to add the whole number parts. So the 1 and the 2. So 1 plus 2 is 3. Then we need to rename the sum or put it together. So our answer would be our whole number, which is 3, and our fraction, which is 3/4. So 3 3/4. Okay, we're going to look at another one. We're going to use that same method. So we have our addition sentence, 3 4/5 plus 2 2/5. So first we're going to add our fractions. So we're going to add 4/5 plus 2/5. 4 plus 2 is 6, and our denominator stays the same. We're going to come back to that in just a minute because I can see that's an improper fraction. My top number is bigger than my bottom number. Let's go ahead and look at our whole numbers next. We have 3 and 2. 3 plus 2 equals 5. Now, our last step is to rename the sum. Whenever we're writing our answer to an addition or a subtraction problem, we don't want to leave an improper fraction if we have a whole number too. So we need to think about what that improper fraction means. So 6/5 means I have 5/5 plus 1/5. And I know that this 5/5 is the same thing as 1 whole. So 6/5 is really the same thing as 1 and 1/5. So I need to add my two wholes together. 5 plus 1, which is 6. So my whole is 6. The fraction is what I have left over, which is 1/5. So that's a little bit more complicated of an addition problem. So now we're going to look at these same two problems again, but we're going to look at the second way you could have solved them. So when we're doing it this way, we're going to start by changing our mixed numbers to improper fractions. So I need to think of what 1 1/4 would be if it was an improper fraction. So remember, 1 means I have 4/4 one time plus the fraction 1/4 equals 5/4. I'm going to look at my next number, which was 2 and 2/4. So that's the same thing as saying 4/4 plus 4/4 plus 2/4, which equals 10/4. The second step is to add those two fractions together. So we want to add 10/4 plus 5/4, which equals 15/4. And then our last step is to change that sum into a mixed number. So what we learned is we can think about how many times does 4 go into 15. It goes into 15 3 times, which would be 12, which means I have 3 left over. So 15/4 is the same as 3 3/4. Okay, we're going to look at that second problem using this method. So first we're going to change the mixed numbers to improper fractions. So 3 4/5. So that's 5/5 plus 5/5 plus 5/5. That's 1, 2, 3, plus the fraction, 4/5. 5, 10, 15 plus 4 is 19. So that's 19/5. And then we have our other number, which is 2 2/5. So that's saying 5/5 plus 5/5. So 1, 2 plus our fraction, 2/5 equals 5 plus 5 is 10 plus 2 is 12. So 12/5. And then we want to add those two together. So we want to do 12/5 plus 19/5. So we need to know, first off, we need to know what 12 plus 19 is. So let me come over here. 19 plus 12. Well, 9 plus 2 is 11. 1, 2, 3 is 31. So this equals 31/5. But we want to change that into a mixed number. So how many times does 5 go into 31? It goes into it 6 times. And what's left over is 1, because 5 times 6 is 30 plus 1. So 6 1/5. Okay, now we're going to look at a couple of subtraction problems doing those same two methods. So this one is 2 2/4 minus 1 1/4. So this time, instead of adding the fractional parts, we're going to subtract them. So we're going to do 2/4 minus 1/4. So remember, we're just subtracting our numerators. So 2 minus 1 is 1. Denominator stays the same. Then we're going to subtract the whole numbers. So 2 minus 1 equals 1. And then we need to rename it or put it together. So 1 1/4. Okay, let's do that same problem using the different method. So for this one, we're going to change our mixed numbers into improper fractions. So 2 2/4 is the same thing as 4/4 plus 4/4 plus 2/4. So that would be 10/4. And then 1 1/4. So that's 4/4 plus 1/4, which is 5/4. So then I need to subtract those because we're subtracting. So I want to do the bigger number first. So 10/4 minus 5/4. 10 minus 5 is 5. Denominator stays the same, but remember we need to change that into a mixed number. 4 goes into 5 one time with 1 left over. If you're going to do the second method where you're changing the mixed numbers to improper fractions, make sure that you're really comfortable with switching back and forth between mixed numbers and improper fractions, because it could be really easy to make a simple mistake. But I want you to choose whatever method you feel the most comfortable with. You might want to try both of them out. Sometimes it might be easier to do one way, and sometimes the other way might be easier. It's totally up to you.